Oh, nice. That was my recent reaction when I saw Algorand lately make a post in regard to post-quantum security. Now, before I explain what I mean by this and before I give my thoughts, I first want to clarify I'm not telling anyone to do anything. Nothing I say is financial advice, and this is purely my perspective. But besides that point, again, Algorand did recently say how post-quantum security isn't coming to Algorand. As a matter of fact, actually, allegedly, what they say is that it's been there for 3.5 years already. Pretty impressive. I mean, when I think about that right there, while other projects out there, they're trying to put it in the roadmap, trying to plan for this moving forward, trying to suddenly care about security, Algorand has already been doing that, allegedly for quite some time now, for over 3 years. And I think it kind of highlights somewhat of the foresight of Algorand caring that much about security, whereas back then, not really that many projects out there cared about that. Now a lot more do, but the thing is, Algorand's already cared about that for quite some time. So pretty impressive in my opinion, and I think it showcases the kind of mindset that Algorand does have. I mean, Algorand has been making some moves lately, right? And I mean, even like literally. Like, for instance, not that long ago, Algorand moved its operations from Singapore back to the US. They moved to Delaware. Not to mention, not that long ago as well, the Algorand Foundation and Algorand Technologies, they kind of, I guess, unified, right? They became kind of one, basically. So Algorand has been doing some stuff like that. So it's not like it's really done nothing. I think it's actually been pretty impressive. And sure, Algorand, it's had a bit of a cool off period. I mean, remember when Algorand had that pretty good rally because it was mentioned in Google's quantum paper? And then as of right now, sure, it's had a pullback. But at the same time, in the past month, I mean, it has been having around a 16% recovery. So it's not the best, but at the same time, not that bad considering how a lot of other projects out there haven't really done much. Now, a main complaint some people like to tell me is that, well, take a look at this random microcap or this random project that did this very fantastic rally or something like that. Well, Algorand, because it's not a small project, because it is currently ranked 56 in the world, it would just need a lot more volume to kind of do something pretty impressive, which we won't really be able to see unless the market sentiment were to recover in a massive way. It's like, for instance, if a project has a market cap that's like 1 million, and suddenly the market cap becomes 10 million. Previously, it was 10 times lower. So of course, the move sounds very impressive. But if we take a look at something like Algorand, having a market cap that is almost 1 billion, even if like 90 million was added to the market cap, it wouldn't even move it 10%. That's the thing. Whereas it would have been a completely different scenario had that 90 million been for a market cap that was originally very small, like let's say around 1 million or 500,000, then of course going to like 90 million suddenly, that would sound very impressive. But in this case, that cannot be the case because by nature, Algorand is pretty massive. Not to mention, Algorand, it's not like it's a project that's just kind of new. No, it's been around for quite some time now. As a layer one blockchain, it's pretty established. Not to mention, people could tell me, well, even with this as of right now, they ask me if I'm concerned when it comes to Algorand. Well, the short answer is no, because if I take a look at it, Algorand as of right now being slightly under 1 billion in terms of market cap, in July of 2025, so I'm not even talking about like that long ago, right? July of 2025, the market cap was almost 3 billion. So we're over 2 times lower than that, almost 3 times lower. I mean, that wasn't even the peak of it in 2025. The peak of Algorand basically in 2025 was almost a 4 billion market cap. So here's the thing. Algorand, if it goes back to where it was back in July of 2025, so not even a year ago, I have like no complaints from my side if that were to happen from Algorand from where it is as of right now. If it goes back to, again, almost a 3 billion market cap, I have no complaints, which we saw basically in July of 2025. Also, if it goes back to, let's say, almost a 4 billion market cap like in January of 2025, I would have zero complaints either. So I really don't need an altcoin season when it comes to Algorand. If it just goes back to either of those 2 points, which we clearly saw last year, I have like no complaints. That's my mindset. And Algorand, as a layer one blockchain, people like to tell me, well, again, they like to ask if I'm concerned if the fundamentals won't be able to allow it to kind of return back to those previous points. But I feel like the fundamentals aren't the main concern for me. I feel like the thing that would kind of maybe allow for that to happen is a market sentiment in terms of a change in that. But we'll wait and see, hypothetically. But in terms of fundamentals, I don't feel like Algorand became any worse or anything. I mean, it's still a very popular layer one blockchain. Historically, I've seen even a statistic indicating at one point that Algorand was the technology of choice for over 2,000 global organizations, which is pretty impressive. I mean, over 2,000. Other projects out there, they could barely even get 5 or 10. But even besides that point, Algorand, keep in mind, has an aspect of ISO 20022, pretty impressive in my opinion. By the way, Ripple and Stellar has an aspect of ISO 20022. Not to mention, Algorand is allegedly carbon neutral, so that's pretty impressive in terms of the energy consumption side of things. So it's not like Algorand has become any worse or anything. I don't think about it that way. It's just the market sentiment hasn't been the best. But naturally, because Algorand is a bigger project, it just would really need a hypothetical change in sentiment in order to do anything significant. But in which case, that might just only require waiting on my part. Like, the fundamentals are already there. So what? I have to wait for the market sentiment to change? That requires time. That requires waiting for me. But in which case, I don't mind because I'm going to be waiting anyways. Like, for instance, if let's say I wasn't holding when it comes to this space, would I still have to be living my life in 2026, 2027, and so on? Yeah, I mean, I'd still have to brush my teeth. I'd still have to take a shower. I'd still have to, just do my basic activities, basically. I'd still have to do all that, whether I'm holding or I'm not. The difference is, if I'm holding, it really is just a background activity, right? It's just something that goes on in kind of addition to me living my life. In which case, if I wasn't holding, then okay, yeah, sure, but I still have to live my life anyways. So it's just kind of like a background activity. The kind of metaphor, or should I say an analogy that I would have when it comes to this is kind of like, let's say, me, for instance. I love fish keeping, right? I also like keeping plants like trees and stuff like that. The thing for me is me taking care of my fish or the plants or the trees. That's something that goes on as like an accessory to my life. Like, of course, I care about it, I think about it, but it's just something that happens in the background as I continue to live my life. So it's really kind of no different, I think, when it comes to the case of Algorand. But the difference is I don't even really need to care about Algorand in that sense. For Algorand, it's just like holding, that's it, right? I mean, it's not like it requires any sort of extra effort in that sense, personally, for me. So if I'm just waiting anyways, yeah, I'll wait. I mean, it's not like it's such a big concern for me. Now, if I had to focus on Algorand like every 5 or 10 minutes, yeah, it's going to become very sort of tiring at that point. Probably I wouldn't believe in it anymore, but because it's not required for that, it's just like, okay, I'm holding anyways, whatever. Now, people like to tell me that, well, if Algorand just goes back to almost a 3 billion in terms of market cap or almost 4 billion, isn't that boring? They like to tell me that. Well, it's going to be dependent on a case-by-case basis. But personally for me, I think sometimes, especially when it comes to me owning shoes or like shirts or whatever, like jeans, sometimes I feel like enough is enough. I mean, I don't need 20 pairs of jeans, 30 pairs of shoes. No, that's not what I even find happiness in anyways. Like, for instance, if Algorand could go back to almost a 3 billion or almost a 4 billion in terms of market cap, like, what do I have to complain about? Like, I'm not looking for the next big, most fantastic, wonderful, amazing. I'm not looking for something like that. Like some people do, like some of my friends out there, they look for micro caps. Sure, that's totally their choice. I mean, I can't control anyone, but that's not what I'm looking for. I mean, keep in mind, we always hear the success stories of these random microcaps sometimes that people often talk about, but we don't hear about the ones that don't make it, right? We only hear about the ones that made it, not the other ones that don't, usually. Now, in some cases, we also do hear some of that, but generally speaking, we only hear kind of about the success stories, so to speak. But I think sometimes people ignore that. For one that makes it, maybe a couple thousand don't. Who knows, right? I'm just saying. Or maybe a couple hundred don't make it. So what? I have to believe in like 500 to maybe find one? No way I'm going to do that. This is purely my perspective. So I don't want to, I guess, try that. I don't want to do that. Personally, this is my case. So yes, I get it. Maybe from around a billion in terms of market cap, people like to say if it goes back to almost 3 billion or almost 4 billion, it sounds kind of boring, they say. But because it's boring, it's not as tiring for me in a sense where, if I'm having to believe in hundreds upon hundreds of projects, which a lot probably won't make it, maybe when it comes to microcaps, yeah, I just don't want that, right? I don't want that sort of stress in my life where I have to believe in a couple hundred to maybe find one. No, I'm not going to do that personally. I'd rather have something boring yet not tiring, if that makes sense. However, that's just purely my perspective, and I'm not telling anyone to do anything. I just want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very nice day. It's Willie the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.